Welcome to Health, Wellbeing and Lifestyle, where professionals in the field educate, inform and inspire the community to live healthier and more balanced lives and live the lifestyle they love. Our first guest for today is root cause and somatic therapist Nicole Healy, and she'll be talking about life beyond your loved one's addiction. Welcome, Nicole.
Thank you for having me.
So, is there life beyond our loved one's addiction?
There is, but firstly, I would like to speak into what addiction actually is. So addiction is any behaviour that we have a craving to do, that when we partake in it, we feel some relief, that we'll continue to do even if it has heavy consequences on other areas of our life. And when we think about addiction, it is actually on a spectrum. So there's the lower end of the scale, which is things like scrolling on your phone, maybe working too many hours, to the other end of the scale, which is things like drugs, alcohol, gambling and porn that have a heavier impact on your life and also usually carry a stigma. Now, for myself, I lived with a food addiction for most of my life, which began when I was around 4 when my father passed away. And everybody brought food as they do. And it was the sort of food that was an occasional food. But 4-year-old me loved having the people around supporting me, showing me love. And I've tried to recreate that feeling through food for a lot of my life. So understanding addiction and that we all have it can really help us to see our loved one in a different light and to see ourselves hopefully with more compassion. Now, when we think about a life beyond addiction, it does actually mean that we can start to live again. Because I know for a lot of us, when we have someone in addiction, we feel like we're treading water. We're trying just to stay afloat. We're not actually really living. We're bracing ourselves for the next event, the next crisis, and feel like we're just surviving. To live a life beyond addiction doesn't mean we have to abandon our loved one, doesn't mean we give up on them. It can mean that instead of carrying them, we can walk beside them and start to do things that bring us joy again, to get support for us, to actually show us that we matter as well.
It is important to acknowledge our own feelings when going through stuff as well, but what can people do to overcome that hurdle of feeling like life has stopped?
I think the first thing you can do is be aware that that is what's going on. Really look at your life and how you feel in it, not just what it looks like, and to give yourself permission to try to seek some change, to maybe get some support, but to start to do things that show you that you matter too. And it doesn't have to be big things if that feels too big at the start, because quite often it will. And there might be guilt attached to that, that if I'm not giving everything I have to my loved one, how are they ever going to get better? But the truth is, you most likely have been giving everything to them and nothing has helped. So why not try something new? And this can be a way to do it without guilt. Go, well, I've given everything to them that I possibly can. It hasn't worked. Maybe I need to start to care for me too. I can't continue to pour from an empty cup. Maybe if I start to care for me, I can show up in ways that are more engaging, that may come more from love than fear, that come from seeing our person beyond the addiction. I think it's really valuable for us to think about even what did I used to like to do before addiction come along, and maybe do more of that. Just start to live again and know that it is possible. We don't have to be weighed down in the chaos. We can still love our person and we can live again. So I know in my experience, having a husband that was living with addiction, I did put everything I had into trying to save him, thinking that then everything would be okay. But I was suffering, he was suffering, and our children were suffering. And I knew something had to change. I was full of anxiety. I wasn't sleeping. I wasn't communicating in a very kind or connective way, which made me feel worse about myself. So starting to actually take a breath, to step back and really look at what was working and what wasn't working was really helpful. And to also realise that my children were being impacted as well, and they needed mum to be reliable, stable and consistent. And that was a big motivator for me to go, well, I need to be there for them as well. So when we start to think about the bigger picture, not just our loved one who is in addiction, we can start to see that we do need to make change. And the impacts of doing that do mean that as a family, whether that's your partner that's in addiction, whether it's one of your children, sibling, parent, friend, everyone else that loves you is missing you as well, just like you're missing your loved one. And you deserve those connections with everybody else, and they are waiting for you to connect with them as well. And this also will help your loved one in addiction because it takes the spotlight off them. It can help them to see that everybody is still thriving, everyone is still getting on with life. They haven't abandoned me, they're just trying to show me a different way.
Given your lived experience, but also the fact that you are a professional in your field, what advice do you have for anyone watching who is struggling to take that first step?
I think the first thing is to maybe just take a breath. And I know that sounds simple, but we probably have forgotten to breathe. We're holding on. Just take a breath and maybe give yourself some space to look at what's working and what's not working, and definitely seeking professional advice. It's a really hard space to navigate, and doing it on your own can actually sometimes make things worse. And we want our loved ones to get support, so maybe we need to lead the way and show them this is the way to do it. It is important too to note that for us loved ones, we might be feeling heartbroken, rejected even, abandoned. We might feel like our loved one doesn't care about us. But when we think back to what addiction actually means, we know that's not true. So just remember to keep that in mind when you do start to step forward for yourself. They aren't abandoning you. There is nothing wrong with you. You deserve to give yourself some care as well, and that will help them more than you shutting yourself down or abandoning yourself ever will. It's time to step forward. It's time to start to live again.
Thank you so much for joining us today, Nicole.
Thank you for having me.
If you would like to learn more about life beyond your loved one's addiction or Nicole, you can check out her webpage on our website, healthwellbeingandlifestyle.com.au. And we will be back shortly after a break with another guest and another great topic.
Stay tuned. After the break, naturopath, respiratory specialist and published author Julia Rudakova will be talking about the mind-body connection and the language of the body. Welcome back. Our second guest is naturopath, respiratory specialist and published author Julia Rudakova, and she will be talking about the mind-body connection and the language of the body. Welcome, Julia.
Thank you so much for having me.
How does our body speak to us?
That's a very good question, and it's one of my favorite topics. From the Chinese traditional medicine, we know that every organ in the body is connected through meridians. Meridians, they're energy channels to different tissues. For example, if there is a meridian going through a shoulder, so that's your gallbladder, there is liver there, and we know that the organ will have an affinity to certain emotions. For example, again, going back to the liver, it's anger and frustration. It's a topic that requires a few examples. And a person may be frustrated at work. There is a situation that hasn't had any resolution so far. Maybe the person needs to speak up. Maybe the person needs to get the team together, and there is a little bit of hesitance because there is a fear of public speaking, and that situation compounds and the person feels frustrated, maybe a little bit angry with themselves, and then develops this constant pain in the neck, in the shoulders, and that's your liver meridian. So if it doesn't go away after a massage, after a relaxation exercise, if it keeps coming back, then it is time to listen. It is time to listen to your body and act on that. And another example of the mind-body connection is as simple as a sore throat, for example. So a person experiencing sore throats on a regular basis, definitely outside of the flu season, signifies to us that the unconscious mind, so talking about mind, we have conscious mind and an unconscious mind. It presents that problem to the person in the physical form, because there is no other way that your unconscious mind can communicate to you other than through the body, through the body's experience, and the best way we respond is to pains and aches. We're not going to respond to something pleasant, we're going to enjoy it. So the pains and aches is the language of the body that listens to the unconscious mind. So the solution could be as simple as having that difficult conversation with a colleague, with a family member that you have been putting off, or you were afraid of their reaction maybe. And that's normal, right? But the solution is acting upon that, identifying why could that be? When was the first incident of that sore throat, right? Outside of the flu season, when was it? And when did it repeat again and again and again? What happened in your life? Who were you talking to? Who were you communicating with? Another example is a sore tummy. So this area, the abdominal area, is all to do with digestive process. And when we can't literally digest something, information in life, that just goes against our beliefs, against our comprehension, then we will start experiencing those digestive symptoms on a regular basis.
How do you address your symptoms?
Firstly, to be in the body, to start listening, not to dismiss those aches and pains if they come with regularity. If it's a pattern, then we need to be able to drop into the body and start listening and moving that emotion. Just as I mentioned, that rock that you throw into the water and the ripples, we need to be able to move those ripples up out into the edge of the pond so that they are neutralized and the body is not affected.
What are your tips for understanding the language of the body?
So now, to understand the language of the body, we need to be able to experience the body fully. We need to be in the body. And you will say, well, how is it you're not in the body? We're all in the body. Oftentimes, when we're immersed into problem solving, we literally get outside. We dismiss the body's symptoms. We dismiss what we're feeling. And I know it's funny, but the most common thing is that we don't stop and have a toilet break when we're submerged into some problem solving, and we don't have a snack when we need to. We don't have a glass of water when the body asks for it because we stop listening and we think that we can do it later. And the same with emotions. Putting it on the back burner is never going to work because we will forget, and then the compounding effect of that is greater aches and pains. So to be present in your body, the easiest way to do this is to be able to control your breathing. So the breathing is your bridge, is the bridge between the mental and the physical, between the emotional and the physical, and even the spiritual and the physical, because in the word respiration, we have the root is spirit, inspiration, respiration, all that linked to the spirit. And when we do the slow breathing and bring ourselves into that parasympathetic nervous system response, which is rest and digest, everything slows down. We can start listening to how we breathe, to our breathing rate. We can connect to our breathing muscles, to the diaphragm. You drop the shoulders down and feel the body. And normally in that time, in that moment, nothing else exists. And if we manage to take that break, even once or twice a day, to connect to ourselves and to start listening to our body, your health will benefit greatly. And as always, please seek advice from a health professional and get your individualized health plan.
Thank you so much, Julia. If you'd like to learn more about the mind-body connection and Julia, you can visit her webpage on our website, healthwellbeingandlifestyle.com.au. Stick around because after the break, we'll be back with another guest and another interesting topic. Stay tuned. After the break, mindset coach Sharee Shefket will be talking about how to know if you have self-limiting belief. Welcome back. Our last guest today is mindset coach Sharee Shefket, and we will be discussing how to know if you have self-limiting beliefs. Welcome, Sharee.
Thank you for having me.
So, what are self-limiting beliefs?
So self-limiting beliefs are basically beliefs that are recurring, that's quite negative about yourself. That's what's called self-limiting. So if you feel like you're, say, an average student because you're a C grade student and have a great report card, that might be a self-limiting belief that you're just an average student. And what happens with the way your subconscious mind works, it will look for evidence. Every time you do something average C, you're just an average C student. And so that will reinforce that self-limiting belief. And every time you do an activity, you do it with that level of, I'm just an average person. Whereas someone who doesn't have a self-limiting belief, and they're maybe an A+ student, will look for more evidence that they are an A+ student. So when they do a task, they do it at a different level. So self-limiting beliefs are very important because it could really change your life if you've got them. And we all have. We have probably thousands of self-limiting beliefs unless you work on them. And it all depends on the programming that you've received as in your childhood, because that environment that you grew up in will play a big part of how many self-limiting beliefs you have.
How do you know if you have self-limiting beliefs?
So some self-limiting beliefs are quite conscious because it's like, okay, well, that voice in your head will say, see, you don't deserve it. You're unworthy. You're not worthy of beautiful things, and that, so it's a bit more conscious. But we also have several self-limiting beliefs that are still unconscious. The best one I think is really important is the fact of, do you love yourself? So, for example, a self-limiting belief is more of a negative belief about yourself, whereas just a belief about yourself. So you think, I'm capable, I'm productive. That's just a belief about yourself that's got no negative connotation. So what we're looking for is more the negative self-limiting beliefs about how you see yourself and how you present, and that will how you present yourself to the rest of the world. For example, I could test to see if you've got a self-limiting belief. Are you okay with that? Mm-hmm. Fantastic. So I do a thing called Psyche, and it's involves self-muscle testing. So I want you to say your full name, but as you say your name, I want you to swallow your saliva. So my name is, and then swallow.
My name is Ali Burney.
And did you swallow okay?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Now I want you to do the same thing, but this time I want you to say, my name is Frank, and swallow.
My name is Frank.
And how was that for you?
That was really hard to swallow.
Great. The reason why you're unable to swallow is that subconscious controls your whole body. And so when something is not congruent, like the subconscious is basically saying the computer says no, you're lying. It's not like a bit of a lie detector test, but not actual, yeah? So what happens, it weakens your muscles, and that's why it's difficult to swallow. They actually did an experiment on this where they got two groups of people, one with the limiting belief of that they're unlucky and the one's lucky. They put money like in this box thing, like $20 note. The people who were lucky found the money straight away. It was like instant. But the people who had a limiting belief that they were unlucky, even though it was right in front of them, they still did not see the money. That's how powerful a self-limiting belief is. So you can do self-muscle testing through the swallow test. So your audience at home could do this easily. So they have to do a base test, like your name first and then a fake name, and they can test themselves.
So what are some tips to change your self-limiting beliefs?
So once you do the self-muscle testing and you can work out what your self-limiting beliefs are, you do one at a time. I don't recommend doing a few, just one at a time, because it's a process and it does take some time because the subconscious works on repetition. So just say you want to change the belief that you are lucky, not unlucky, you're lucky, yes? What I would recommend is, if you want to do it at home, is start to say you're lucky all the time. So put it on your phone, calendar, so it's repeating. Your conscious mind is looking at it all the time, and they'll start to go into your subconscious. The other technique I recommend, are you left hand or right hand dominant? Right. Then you brush your teeth with your left hand, and what that will do, it will open up your whole state, your whole brain state, and that way you're brushing your teeth, you say, I am lucky, I am lucky. If we want to change any habits or beliefs, it takes about 66 days, which is about that 10-week mark. So that's why it needs consistency. You don't want to change 2 or 3 limiting beliefs. It's just too difficult. You do it. That's why it's a time-consuming thing, but it's possible. I also recommend someone who does Psyche, like what I do, which takes about 15 minutes to do. Yeah, but you still have to do the repetition, but it's a lot more efficient way to change that limiting belief. So it's something that someone can do at home. Like I said, self-muscle testing, see where the limiting beliefs are, and then start to rewire the mindset in terms of the new belief system. Now, what happens, and this is really important, you have a pathway. So you have a pathway right now that says, I'm unlucky. So let's examine that a bit more. You know, when you go to the beach, there's no pathway, is there? But you can see some footprints. Your mind will go straight to follow the same footprints. That's like a pathway. That's how I look at it. What I'm asking you to do now is we're creating a new pathway, but it's a bit more rugged. It's not as easy because it's not as established. So for you to go onto the new pathway, it's going to take a lot of effort. So, and it's, like I said, a process. And what's going to happen though, if you keep using the new pathway, the old pathway will start to fade away. And that's what we want. It will never go away completely, but will fade away. And the new pathway will start to get a little bit more defined and so forth. That's what we want. So the new belief that I'm lucky will start to get stronger and stronger. But where it goes wrong sometimes with people is that, just say you lose a competition, you don't want to reactivate that new pathway. Okay, I didn't win that competition. Doesn't mean I'm not lucky. I need you to still use the new pathway, because you can start to, again, revert back to the old pathway. That's where it's really important. It is a difficult process, so help from a therapist is really important. You'll get faster results, and you'll get that coach to really make sure that you stay motivated and having that support that you might need to change those limiting beliefs.
Thank you so much. That was so insightful. If you'd like to know more about Sharee and changing your self-limiting beliefs, you can visit her webpage on our website, healthwellbeingandlifestyle.com.au. That's it from us today. We'll see you next week.
If you'd like to know more about our show, please like us on Facebook, follow us on Instagram, and subscribe to our YouTube channel.